all of your senses. Breathe into your root and sacral chakras, where we hold the power of creation within ourselves. Feel the power of your connection to the universe and the earth. You are connected to the generative primordial power of Gaia, which is in your deep, innate ability to create your own reality. To grow the seeds of your deepest desires. To gestate, bring forth, and nurture that which is most important to you and your personal growth. Breathe into this and call on your inner Gaia to be present during the sacred learning circle, where we as women will grow into our power and claim mastery over it. We are powerful, we are creative, and we have the archetypes within. Breathe into that space. When you are ready, you may open your eyes and join this sacred circle with the energy of Gaia. Okay. All right. We're all feeling grounded. Root your feet to the floor below you, even though we may not be directly touching earth. It is a way to connect to Gaia and to her deep sense of power, the root source from which we all exist and grow. You should feel very relaxed right now. Oh, I do. All right, so let's begin by looking at the mythos, the ancient story in the mythology and ancient religious connotations, attributes of this powerful goddess. Gaia is one of the originals. In the ancient story of the Big Bang version of the ancient Greek creation myth, there was an egg. It was a primordial egg in the middle of darkness. Out of this egg sprang forth chaotic, powerful beings, which were the catalyst to begin the creation of the ancient Grecian universe and pantheon. They then created Gaia. And Gaia is one unto herself. She is a very deeply powerful being. She is the primal energy from which all creation and creative powers begin. They are from Gaia, from her source. She is also interesting in the respect that she doesn't have to have a consort to create. Okay, she holds that parthogenic or asexual creative ability within herself. So she has the power to do this without any other help. And she is actually the representation of the earth itself, not necessarily a goddess separate from the earth. So she is the earth and all of its creative power. The land, the sky, the sea, all of that were her creations, the mountains, the creatures. Now, the interesting thing about the sky is that she created her own consort and birthed him, Uranus. And he is the sky and the beginnings of containing the cosmos, but also protecting and being like this covering layer, which used to blanket Earth. She embraced him, held him, and through Uranus, she was able to create a whole myriad of wild, primordial, primal beings, as well as having it be the earth, the water, the mountains, the trees, the flora, the fauna, all of it. But the first creative beings, the ones that walked this earth, some of whom were rather terrifying. They were kind of monstrous, to be precise, and they created the basis for a lot of the interesting mythological stories of the conflicts of heroes later, the hero's journey. And she was famed for first creating, after Uranus, she that created the Cyclopses. Now, those of you may remember the Cyclopses have like the one eye, and they're kind of monstrous creatures. They're not the nicest of characters. So she moved on and created more beings with Uranus. The Hecacrides were giants with 100 arms and 50 heads. Now that's quite something to imagine, those roaming the earth. And they were followed by the infamous and famed Titans. Now the Titans were the original kind of humanoid formed representations of deities in the ancient world, but they still were kind of wild and crazy. They were elemental beings. They were untamable. And the most infamous of those, of her children, was Kronos. And Kronos is also famed for having been the father of the Olympian gods. Okay, Kronos and his sister wife, Rhea, were Titans, children of Gaia and Uranus. And they are the ones who birthed and created the first Olympians, the oldest ones, which I will be talking about on the goddess format in future classes as we go forward. Now, Gaia is a very powerful entity, and she isn't necessarily fond of feeling imposed upon. And the energy of Uranus is very heavy. It's weighty. It's really powerful. And he was fairly lusty. So there was a lot of intercourse and a lot of creation and a lot of birthing, constant process of that for Gaia. And it came to a certain point where she was a little fed up with that. She wanted to do things on her own again and have a little breathing space. So she asked her son, Kronos, who was irascible, didn't have a deep fondness for his father, to help trick Uranus. And one time, within the act of procreation, she had already given Uranus a sickle, which she created, and he castrated his father. And from that, we have interesting creations. She was able to give birth to the final children with Uranus. And from the severed phallus, which Kronos threw into the ocean, we have the creation story of a very powerful goddess, Aphrodite. So it's an interesting how the myths flow and morph into one another, but these two powerful creational beings created so much of what the later Greek pantheon would become, and then supported the mythos beyond that. But Gaia herself is a very, very powerful entity, as it is the living space in which everything dwells. So, and I believe that most people understand that conceptually. Mother Earth, we're connected to that source. We feel like we're grounded there. Oftentimes, though, I feel like now with the modern societies, we are distracted from that power. And we're distracted from the power within ourselves. And you are a woman. It doesn't matter what stage of life you're in, if you have or were able or were not able to produce offspring of your own. There is within us that fiery core power of generative energy and the ability to create. And it's that life source that we feel connected to as women through our root chakra, our sacral chakras. That is the area of the body where Gaia would have power. So when we move on and we look at what the archetypal significance is for us as having our own inner creation goddess, it's a pretty interesting and powerful place to come from because it isn't as obviously attainable. She is a little out there, that primordial energy. It's really wild, it's raw. It isn't something that has the same obvious connotations of a lot of the other goddess archetypes that we'll be talking about. It's really deep. And working with that within yourself is very powerful. Being able to settle into the power and recognize what it is that you have within you that allows you to create and generate things in your life is something that I feel as women in society now, with all of the tasks that we take on our lives in general, possibly, and I will get into a little about that. There are similarities. I'll diverge for a second to answer that question. There are similarities in world cultures around the globe among the deities and the gods. I tend to focus on the Grecian ones. I have a deep connection to ancient Greece. I've spent some time in Greece as a girl, and when I was 11, we spent a winter there. So it further deepened my connection to those deities and why I kind of focus on the Greeks. But in future classes, I will start talking about other world cultures as well. So there are similarities between creational goddesses in different cultures, just like there are similar mythos with your creation stories, the giant floods, the Promethean energy, the paradise lost. There are a lot of similarities there. Okay, so there are ways that these myths, even though these cultures were deeply disconnected in ancient times, there wasn't that, conquer and merging of cultures in the most ancient forms of the religions. It's interesting to me to think about how they do correlate, how there is some shared primal knowledge that may have happened, cataclysms, major things happening on the planet, ancient peoples becoming aware of their surroundings and giving voice and physical form to the terrifying and life-changing experiences they would see, just like the rising and the setting of the sun. Can you imagine that for the ancients, not knowing if it was coming back, right? The way the moon would change. What did that mean? Why did it pull tides? Why were we connected to that feeling? Why did we fear the dark? So there was a lot to that for ancient peoples, and I do believe that is where religion grew. And the need to give meaning to these cycles, to these changes, was deep. And the stories would be shared in story form at first, before they became more like religious rites and ancient rituals and practices began. So with Gaia, animal sacrifice being part of the ancient ritual, honoring her and all of that, hers were a little different than some of the other deities. They weren't as obvious. The rituals weren't as tangible or pragmatic. And a lot of it has to do with connecting to the earth, respecting it, being involved with the feeling of the ebb and flow, the way the earth shifts, the way it spins, the way we are connected to everything in the universe. So with that Gaia energy, it's important to recognize within ourselves that we can do that ourselves. We have the power to create. Now, with my work and with my personal spirituality, everybody's religions are different. And in this space, there is no judgment. This is a respectful zone. What I believe within myself is that we hold the archetypes within. the power to create change in our lives isn't necessarily external. Though there are external energies and they are very powerful, they come from a great source, and all throughout humanity, we have sought to give them name, faces, and power over our lives so we feel less vulnerable. We feel like things make sense. We have rules to live by. I know that psychologically, and Jung, the psychologist Jung, worked with archetypes. That was his main focus. How those different voices play out within our psyches and which ones dominate and why. When they become corrupted, when they are strong, when they have strength for us and allow us to feel more empowered. My work with archetypology, which is my form of archetypal mythological work, is to recognize that within ourselves, to be able to go in, look deeply at who we are, acknowledge our strengths, our weaknesses, and accept that, yes, we have responsibility over our own lives, not to give up our personal power to something else, but to understand that that power comes from within, even if you choose to worship something without. There is power within ourselves. So thinking of destiny, of fate, I think those things are out there. I'm not going to say they aren't, but no matter what, we have that ability to make transformative decisions in our lives. It isn't just sit back and wait for it to come to us. What a great adventure story ever began that way. The heroic stories were all about tension, flux, big changes, grappling with untamable adversaries in order to achieve heroic status, whether or not you're female or male, masculine energy. There were heroic stories on both sides of the duality. And when we think about Gaia's energy, it's important to recognize that we are able to pause wherever we are in our lives and think about what that creative energy looks like for us. Where are we stuck? Is there something that is nagging at you at the back of your mind that you aren't able to bring forward fully? If that's the case, using the Gaia energy, rooting yourself to the earth and pulling that energy up from within yourself, from your root to your sacral chakra and beyond, will bring that power into your life. That's easier said than done. And there are some steps. I will share screen so you can see a few things you might work with to harness that energy and recognize Gaia within yourself. Whenever we're stagnant, whenever we're frustrated, we feel like things are not moving forward, and our projects, and we all have projects, no matter who you are and what you're doing in your life, whatever you're seeking to make for yourself and create is your creative project. It's your baby. It's your creation. It's what you bring into the world. And we have big dreams. We have big goals, most of us. And it doesn't matter what that is. That's subjective. Our big goals are different. But what they are is incredibly important and intrinsic to ourselves, to our nature as women. If we are stagnant, we're tapping it down and ignoring those urges, and we're not listening, and we're not looking at signs that are coming to us. We aren't open to the force around us, the way the planet is literally moving us, molding us, shaping us, pulling us down with its gravity. If we're not understanding what that effect has on us psychologically, that's when we start getting stagnated. Bad energy, it starts coming out in different ways, getting sick, feeling just off physically and emotionally. So there's a lot to the Gaia energy that you can work with to bring up, bring out of yourself all of this power. But it's not just, oh, let's just, focus. Okay, where does that come from? How do I do that? What do I use to utilize to harness these things? So I'm going to go ahead and share screen, and we're going to look at a few little things. You can write down some ways that you can activate these things for yourself. Practice techniques to help you use your creative power. And that could be literally creating, like, I'm a professional painter, an artisan, I make jewelry. For me, creating isn't just one specific thing, it's multiple things, and it's literal creative energy. For you, it may not be. It may be cooking. It might be going out and doing something wonderful out in nature and collecting things in your path to create a sacred space for yourself in your home using natural objects. It might be collecting and putting together a beautiful library of inspirational books that you can go to, that you get your source of wisdom from to inspire yourself. It can be lots of different things. It can be parenting. It can be grandparenting, being an auntie, anything that you are then feeling like you are nurturing not only yourself, but others. And now she isn't the specific goddess I associate with the mother archetype. That's the next one we're talking about. But she is the motherly force. And no matter what you gestate and create and put out there, you also have to nurture it into existence so that it grows fully and healthily and becomes, bountiful, which is what we want. So let me go ahead and take a sip of water and go ahead and put on the share screen, and we'll take a look at some of the things you can work with to activate that, bring that Gaia energy forward within yourself and use externally to kind of get the ball rolling so you feel more like you're greasing the wheels of your creative energy. One moment. There we go. So here are some wonderful ways to invoke Gaia. You are welcome to take a photograph of the screen or not note all of these down for yourselves. So manifesting the Earth Goddess, ways to do this. The beginning of the class, we did a grounding exercise. You could actually take something similar for yourself and go outdoors where it's safe to do so, where it's private and you feel comfortable to do the grounding work, deep breathing, putting your feet on the ground, in the dirt, wherever you're able to, maybe against a tree or out among the flowers, wherever it inspires you. You can do this in the sand at the beach. Now that's very primal and very powerful. It's like her womb-like waters crashing against the shore. She is very powerful near the ocean. You can experience her always in nature because she is nature. She is in everything. Literal creative projects, like I was discussing, whatever made you feel like you were tangibly creating something, whatever appeals to you. And you can ask me for ideas if you're stuck with that and you want to begin. Nurturing yourself and others. Always start with nurturing yourself, because what tends to happen as women is we put others nurturing first and ignore ourselves. We become depleted, angry, just uncomfortable and dissatisfied. So find a moment where you can nurture yourself before activating that energy and giving that to others. It just takes a moment. It doesn't need to be anything elaborate. Just take a deep breath, go within, check in with yourself and see what you need in the moment to advocate for your needs while taking care of everybody else. Because we're big multitaskers, I know that. Claiming your personal power. There are many ways you can do this. This is acknowledging that you are responsible for what you do, what your actions are, the things you feel and say. You have triggers. I'm not going to say that there aren't. We have a past, our childhood influences, our relationships, our stresses, our work. They create that energy for us to have what we call as baggage. The thing is to carry it as lightly as possible, process through it well, so you can claim that personal power for yourself. There are so many amazing ways you can do that. Journaling, meditating, deep breathing, prayer, focusing your thoughts in ways that are very positive. And one of the things I like you to think about when working with archetypal voice work is choosing to use the Gaia voice, which is commanding. It's powerful. It's one within herself. She is the deep, confident, sure of herself and her abilities, and doesn't let others push her around. When she gets to the point where she's had enough, she makes the changes she needs to feel one within herself again. And that doesn't mean you have to be violent about it. It just means taking a stand, making sure you understand what you personally need, and advocating for yourself, asking for help. We're not usually fully alone. Now, lately, isolation has been very difficult with COVID. So that's something to work with. How can you connect in communities? My Mystical Woman's Circle is perfect for that. You're always welcome to communicate with me there. Some items of power to use. Crystals, I recommend. I love crystals. I make crystal jewelry. It's very healing and they're very calming and centering to use. Jasper is very earthy and grounding. Green aventurine is that wonderful earthy green, that beautiful color that is associated with the planet. Labradorite is deep magic, kind of cosmic, a little bit wild in its energy, but very supportive. Smoky quartz is really deep power, kind of that almost coming up out of the darkness, the creative generative force, and quartz is extremely empowering. Hematite is protective and healing, and amber is truly a process of the earth making something incredible out of different resources, from the tree sap into a beautiful semi-precious stone to wear. Essential oils I would recommend as well because they're very healing. Cedarwood, fir, eucalyptus, sandalwood. You notice all the woods there. Anything that's earthy, woodsy, related to tree oils or plants that smell earthy, like the flower geranium is an incredible smell for essential oils that would make you feel connected to that earth energy. And then the perfume scent of amber is wonderful as well. Symbolism to keep around you or recognize or have artwork made of, which I can do as well. Trees, animals, water, mountains, and the earth. So that is all really powerful work for you to think about while invoking Gaia and bringing her more forward when you need her. She's always there. She is the Earth Mother. And I'll go right along into some powerful journaling prompts. Journaling is really empowering work. And it is something sometimes we get distracted from doing, but I truly recommend doing so. Take a few minutes, take one or all of these questions. You could do this over a period of a few days and really connect with these questions. Think about them, ruminate with them, come back to write about them when you've had some time to think about them a little bit more throughout your day. How am I creating the life I envision for myself? What keeps me grounded and balanced? I am powerful and creative because I stand fully in my power and it makes me feel. Connecting with my inner mother brings me. And I am ready to advocate for myself by. So I'm back with you now. These are all really powerful questions and prompts to bring that energy up for yourself and to feel your inner creative goddess. How many of you here actively participate in creation, like painting, knitting? Yeah, wonderful. Absolutely fabulous. Anything that involves tactile things using your hands, I highly recommend as a great therapeutic process. Well, channeling this energy is working with clay, because clay is connected to the earth. She is so clay-like and earthy and wonderful. You might even try sculpting little images for yourself of the goddess, little effigies that you can use. There's some wonderful low-cost self-drying crafting clays you can work with. You can literally craft your own little goddess and paint her. Doesn't matter what she looks like, but you could make your own little Gaia and put her somewhere special. Make yourself a little sacred altar. Oh, I'm sorry, Lori. Let me see. Is there a way you can click on your little icon? Is there a little icon that pops up? There you are. I know it's always the thing. I thought maybe this streaming would be a little easier than Zoom tends to be. I've had issues with Zoom in the past, but we shall see how this progresses. So at this point, now that we've had time to get into all of these particulars, I'm going to go ahead and have you unmute yourselves. Let's open up and have a discussion among each other about the goddess archetype, feel free to do so. It would be wonderful to talk to you about what you're feeling, what you're thinking. So go ahead, unmute yourselves. We have an open forum. Anybody want to start? You can just raise your hand if you want to be the...
Hey, Elizabeth, I had a question for you.
Sure, Lois.
I put it in the chat just because, like, and I think a lot of people can relate to this, but ever since becoming a mom, I lost a lot of my creative energy. It went towards the children, and so yes. I have definitely felt not nearly as grounded as I was pre-children. And so I've been speaking and writing a lot. Is that enough creative type examples to really...
Lois, you blow the creative energy out of the water. You don't even have to worry about that. Your podcasts and what you do with them, you are not only creating, but what you are doing is very Gaia-like in the sense that you're creating a sense of community. You are creating something new, a new paradigm for people to participate in with you, that you nurture and bring forward and bring out from people. So definitely what your work is a creative act. It's an act of creating something powerful. So that's wonderful. And yes, I know kids take up a lot of our time and energy. It's true for those of us who have them. But that doesn't mean that even parenting isn't a creative act, because like with my little child, he's 3, I'm always doing creative things with him, from, creative projects to baking to, mucking around outside in the mud, in the water, whatever it is that we need in the moment. I always remember that. I was always a creative child. So I remember that we can do that when moments are stressful, and you can do that as an adult for yourself whenever you need to. Find what it is that inspires you to create in the moment. Okay? That might even just be going on and, for example, making yourself an amazing playlist of music, things that inspire you, amazing female artists that make you feel like you are, and kind of bringing that energy up for yourself. There are a lot of female singer-songwriters and musicians that inspire me, and I listen to them on a regular basis while I'm doing other things, sometimes while I'm working on creative stuff. So it's great. Whatever inspires you. Okay, anybody else have something they want to talk about or share?
I'll say something.
Yeah.
Hello, my love. This is so fun. I got my nails done, by the way.
Gorgeous. That's a beautiful color.
Thank you. I just wanted to say about creativity that I actually had this conversation with my dad yesterday. And, creativity, like you said, it comes in many forms. And I think one of the most important things that we need to remember is that we can't judge ourselves. I was kind of judging the fact that I didn't feel like I was creative, and I felt like I was able to show up creatively in my life because I don't feel confident, for example, in like my drawing abilities. I don't actually enjoy painting. There was a period of time when, those like paint and wine places were like super popular, and I dreaded I know, but I dreaded getting invited to them. Like I just don't enjoy it. It's just not what I like, and that's cool. Yeah. But I would like feel bad about it, and I judged myself for it. And I appreciate that there's amazing, beautiful painters like yourself. And also I know that I create in a different way. So I just wanted to share that. And a book that I love, I'm sure you all heard of it, but I have it right here because it's one of my favorites, Big Magic by Elizabeth Gilbert, that says Creative Living Beyond Fear. And she's a fantastic writer. Also, I just love this book because she really talks about all the ways to nurture your creative energy. She spends a lot of time actually talking about gardening, and she always thought she was she hated gardening because she grew up, with a mother who was very much into gardening, and she resisted it. But she didn't want to have a garden of produce. She wanted a garden of flowers. And when she started to, develop her creative side through gardening her flowers, she unleashed this whole part of herself, which she loved. So, and that's very Gaia, to be in earth and express yourself that way. So anyway, this is an awesome book. I highly recommend it.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I have not read that book, so that's a good one.
You would love it. You would love it. And I'll send you the link. But Elizabeth Gilbert's a fantastic author. And this book, it's nonfiction, but it's very clever, a fun read. And it's just, it's tapping into everything that you're talking about. So highly recommend.
Wonderful. And yes, of course, gardening is a perfect way of connecting with Gaia too.
Right.
Even if you build container gardens, like that's mostly what we have to do with the desert soil we have. We do lots of little containers in season. And it's just so nice just to feel that. And I have the history of my parents used to own an incredible property in Western North Carolina up in the mountains outside of Asheville. Spent many years there, on and off throughout my adult life too, going back. My husband and I lived there when we were married for our first year and a half of marriage, and we worked the land, and it was so powerful. There were nature spirits there. You could feel them. It was so potent. So if you are able to work with planting in the earth, that's also wonderful. And creativity can mean so many different things. And it's just what feels right to you. As Hallie is saying, there's no shame if you're not an artist. I have worked with people who have never picked up a paintbrush before, and they were able to complete a painting and were like so good about themselves afterwards. But it doesn't have to be that. It can be anything you feel that makes you feel creative.
And I found that, like, I can't draw down a stick figure. I can't. I do energy healing, and I found, oddly enough, I can't draw a stick figure to save my life. But when I do energy healing, I can use chalks. Chalks work for me.
Chalk is your medium. Yes, that's wonderful.
For energy healing, not for artistically, but I can do that. But I found that I had a vacation in June, and I also had to build something myself. And I'm in an apartment. So I went out and bought wood, and I built my tarot desk. I just said, I can do it.
Oh my goodness. That's beautiful too.
I went upstairs, and I cut it in my apartment, and I sanded it and painted in my apartment. But I did it. So
I love it.
You find your medium.
Absolutely you do. And that is a beautiful shelf setup. I love that. It's so bright, it's cheerful, and I love how you have your words of empowerment around you. That is so nice. Very beautifully created. See, that's creation right there, baby. You got it.
Because there's dirty clothes that way, so I can angle the camera and where's the cord at?
Yeah, no, I get it. You're tuned into that. And I like your crystal ball there too. Is that a crystal ball? Is that quartz?
Well, I have.
Or what is that on your shelf next to Believe?
This one?
Yeah, that's a gorgeous.
Yeah. So.
Beautiful. Those are lovely. Very nice. You have some good energy right there. And of course, crystals are from the earth, so that's all Gaia energy too. I'm like that annoying teacher, like, I've got this. Yeah, that's Gaia. Anything that came from the earth is Gaia, so you're good.
Yeah, energy healing tends to keep me very connected.
That's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Anybody else? Monica, you want to interject anything? Sarah, would you like to comment? Kim, anything else you'd like to say?
I'll just say this was really informative and powerful for me. Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for being here. Really appreciate it. Great to have you.
Thank you.
And this is the first of many. So what I have done is I have set them up bi-weekly. I know that we're very busy people. So bi-weekly, I figured would be a little bit less pressure. And what I'm focused on with the archetypes coming up are a great segue out of Gaia. We will be talking about next Demeter, goddess archetype of motherhood, and then Persephone, the goddess archetype of the daughter and queen of the underworld. And then after that, we're looking at Hestia, who is the goddess of the hermitess energy, the hermit going within. And all of those goddesses are fantastic to look at during this particular season. They have a lot to do with the changing of the seasons, which I'll get into, and using the energy that works in the fall leading into the winter. So it's very powerful stuff. So I'm hoping that you will be able to join me, and we'll get really into each of those goddesses. Demeter and Persephone are tied together as they are mother and daughter. So it's a really potent look at your inner mother archetype and then your inner child. Boom, boom, one after another. So really important work there. So I'm really hoping you can join me for those. It would be wonderful to have you there. And then as we progress on, I'll be adding more of the deities because there are some amazing goddesses yet to come into, which are dealing with like majesty, with love, with intellect and wisdom, with your power of the huntress. So there's a lot more to go. And then after that, I'm going to get into some other cultures, like goddesses like Ishtar, Inanna, Isis, from other cultures that we can look at that have really incredible power. Like China, from China, So there's some really great things to look forward to. And again, as I said, you know my website probably, but it's www.elizabethmibarra.com/events. That's where you can find all of my classes. I will type that in the chat. And you can also, if you happen to would like to do this for me, is to leave me a tip. You're welcome to. I'm giving these for free now just because we're on difficult times and I don't want to put pressure on anyone for a specific dollar amount with the classes. You know, we all need to be flexible with that. So let me go ahead and put my link.
I just wanted to say I really appreciate this idea of, the tapping into the multiple creative energies that that we have. I think that a lot of times people will tell me I'm creative and they say that they're not creative. But when you look at the different talents that we have, connecting with people is being creative because you have to be able to kind of develop conversations based on different people's interests and find some kind of commonality. And another thing is that I think that as children we tend to be much more free and open, and then as we mature we start to second guess ourselves, and so I think that some of us have kind of remained creative and just never grew up. But I think that thinking in terms of this creative energy coming from the beginning, it's something that's innate in us, and just we need to just tap into it and find what I guess what type of creative what kind of creativity resides within us, and develop those talents and share them, and help to empower others.
Absolutely. That's really, really good observation. And you teach as well. And I feel like teaching can be a very creative act because you are creating something to give to and nurture whoever is learning from you. And that's really powerful. Like whatever you're doing that activates a certain part of yourself, that imparts something of talent, creativity, teaching, skills, and Lois's case with her incredible podcast. Lois is my amazing coach as well as being a friend. She actually has helped me transform my business approach to be able to work in an online format, which I was always person to person, going to events, doing art shows in person. So Lois helped bring me up out of that dark space at the beginning of the lockdown and has taught me valuable things, which is an incredibly creative process as well. So whatever your creativity is, yes, kisses and hugs, Lois, plugging your business is Ellie, dear. And Hallie, with her incredible work with the moon circles and connecting with her community as well, brought me out of some dark stuff. So having a community, a group where we work among ourselves and with each other to lift up that energy is really powerful. So please continue to share within the Mystical Women's Circle so we can continue doing that. Don't feel shy about making posts or asking questions there, because it's a great way to communicate those deeper issues. And most of us have similar things. I mean, yes, we have similar basic things, but our baggage is different. Our influences are different. Our life experiences are not the same, but we can relate to one another about some really basic stuff that comes up, that inner chatter. So with working with Gaia this week, think about it. I'd love for you to share that in Mystical Women's Circle, what your observations are. If you want to just ask a question, drop something that you became aware of while you were journaling. If you were out in nature and had a revelation, put it there and we can kind of discuss this further and continue the process. I'm really grateful to all of you for sharing this with me. This is many, many years in the making for me. This has been one of my biggest dreams, is to do work with the archetypes. And eventually I'm going to get into the male archetypes, and those will probably be a co-ed class. I kept it all women for the goddesses just because I feel like we need a safe space right now to kind of explore these topics. Though we both have the duality, we have the male and female archetypes within us. So that's something else to look forward to in the future as well. But I deeply appreciate your being here with me today. And yeah, so in closing, anybody else has anything they want to ask or any more information you need, I am here for you. We have a couple more minutes to go. Taking it up to the top of the hour. I think Sarah has to leave. I was hoping for more people to tune in today, and I'm going to be looking at what those technological issues were. I'll ask my friends what happened. I know some people are a little busy. I did record this, so I'm hoping that I can share it as well.
Frances said she kept trying even on her phone and couldn't get in, and I don't know, maybe there's something like maybe when you start recording someone can't get in. I have no idea. She thought it was her iPad.
I wasn't recording when she was having the using but yeah, I'm not sure.
My iPad.
Glitches, it's just glitches with technological stuff. I'll talk to her about it. She's a really good friend of mine, so
yeah,
I'll make sure she gets the information.
Like from the valley.
Yeah, exactly. All right.
I had to log off and try and log in again because for some reason the join button wasn't working when I initially logged in. So it may be, just that
might be a thing.
The order that you click, like accept, the.
Okay, I'll make note of that, and then a note about the tickets. Make sure you try logging out and in before you click join. Okay, that's a good point. It probably needs your login information first. Okay, well, that's good to know, and I appreciate that because this is my first time using Wix Live. So if it is proving to be problematic, I may have to go with a Zoom link instead. We'll see if that works better. Well, thank you again so much for being here, and have a wonderful rest of your weekend.
Thank you.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
See you next time.
Thank you. It was awesome.
Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.